Welcome to the Southwest Florida International Airport Master Plan Update. This is the third presentation for the Master Plan Update. At the end of the presentation, information will be provided on how you can provide comments and be part of the Master Plan process. The Lee County Port Authority operates the Southwest Florida International Airport, or RSW for short. The Port Authority has brought together a team of subject matter experts that have extensive experience in their respective fields, and particularly at RSW. The local engineering firm, Johnson Engineering, is serving as the prime consultant, working closely with the senior leadership team from ESA, Recondo, and Atkins. My name is Mike Arnold, and I'll be serving as the primary author of the Master Plan. My responsibility is to ensure that the Master Plan is written in a single voice that cohesively integrates the detailed information developed during the course of the study. The Master Plan will be completed over a 2-year period. The project kicked off in May of 2021, and the first deliverables, notably the existing conditions, aviation forecast, and preliminary terminal gate analysis, were delivered in October of 2021. The runway demand capacity analysis, terminal gate refinement, and North Area Plan were delivered in early 2022. This presentation will highlight the facility requirements and early preferred concepts for major airport facilities. The next round of deliverables, which includes the remaining elements of the draft Master Plan report, such as the capital program and the updated airport layout plan, will be delivered in early 2023. The final deliverable, the Comprehensive Master Plan report, will be submitted to the FAA and FDOT in July of 2023. As a refresher from the last presentation, we'll start with a few definitions that will be used throughout this presentation and the master planning process. An enplanement is a departing passenger. Total passengers is the sum of departing and arriving passengers. We typically assume that for every departure or enplanement, there will be one arrival. This means that to count the total passengers at an airport, you would multiply enplanements by 2. An aircraft operation is either an aircraft takeoff or a landing. Total operations is the sum of all takeoffs and landings. In September 2021, the Lee County Port Authority Board approved a forecast of passengers and operations, shown here on the left side of the screen, that were initially intended for use in the master plan. During the FAA coordination process, that forecast was revised slightly and adjusted by 1 year to better reflect ongoing recovery. The adjusted forecast approved by the FAA for use in the Master Plan update projects the need to accommodate just over 6 million commercial enplanements in 2026 and just over 8.7 million enplanements by the end of the 2041 planning period. Total operations are projected to increase from just over 105,000 operations in 2026 to more than 136,000 operations by 2041, with approximately 121,000, or 89% of those, being commercial passenger aircraft. Planning activity levels, or PALs, are used in airport master planning to denote anticipated planning milestones. A trigger, usually a level of passenger activity or aircraft operations, would require that certain requirements be met in order to accommodate that level of activity. While during the planning process a PAL can be associated with a year, the timing may differ due to different economic conditions or landmark events. Using a PAL instead of a fixed year allows the planning methodology to remain sound and adjust as needed based on actual demand rather than a fixed point in time. A large component of master planning is determining what the airport needs to meet the forecast activity. Earlier in the master plan process, the inventory established baseline conditions or the current state of the airport. The forecast projects how much future activity is anticipated to occur at the airport. The facility requirements helps determine what the airport needs in terms of new or improved facilities to meet the anticipated growth of passenger, cargo, and general aviation activity. In order to identify the facility requirements for this master plan update, the team considered industry-accepted methodologies, local conditions unique to Southwest Florida, and industry trends. The facility requirements are used to guide and refine the development alternatives. The exact timing of the projects will ultimately be refined during the financial feasibility analysis as part of the capital improvement program development. For each major facility presented today, a table is provided that identifies the current conditions at the top. Facility demand for each planning activity level is shown in black, facility deficits are shown in red, and facility surpluses are shown in green. Projects proposed to meet the facility needs are depicted in bold black font. When planning for how to meet requirements for a certain facility need, the airport has to balance how well the need is met versus the cost. Rather than implementing small projects throughout the planning period to meet minor shortfalls in demand, larger, more cost-effective projects are implemented more strategically to minimize disruption and maximize cost-effectiveness. Airport projects typically have a 5-year development cycle. Once planning and environmental review are completed, the project funding plan is finalized and a designer and construction manager is hired. This can take up to a year. Over the next 18 months, the project goes through design development and refinement process, obtaining necessary permits for construction from various federal, state, and local agencies. Funding for the project is secured and the design packages are bid. Depending on the scope of the project, construction can vary in length and averages about 2 years. Presentation 2 reviewed the runway demand capacity analysis, the terminal gate refinement study, and the North Area Plan. Following is a review of those projects and some of the facility needs required to support them. A new runway is usually one of the most challenging endeavors an airport can undertake, and significant effort has been undertaken to plan for the new parallel runway at RSW. In order to have the runway operational when the airport hits the estimated capacity in 2043, work will need to begin in earnest in 2038. Prior to that, permits will need to be managed to ensure that the airport is well positioned to proceed when needed. The 9,100-foot proposed parallel will accommodate the takeoff and landing performance requirements of 95% of all aircraft operating at the airport, while the existing runway can accommodate 100% of the performance requirements. Separated by 5,465 feet, the two runways will be able to operate independently, including during bad weather conditions, while providing room for future terminal expansion. This configuration, which is consistent with previous planning efforts, has been reviewed and confirmed as part of the master plan update. The airfield layout for the new parallel runway reflected here includes some taxiway fillet modifications based on recent updates to FAA design standards. As part of the airfield planning analysis, the North Area Plan was reviewed to determine if airfield modifications were required to support it. Based on this analysis, it is recommended that an apron-edge parallel taxi lane to Taxiway A be planned to facilitate North Area access from the airfield. This taxi lane would allow for the largest aircraft operating at RSW to access any of the associated developments. Its placement will also protect for a potential future parallel taxiway. It was also recommended that Taxiway A5, shown in red, be widened to support larger aircraft and shifted to the west to meet the current FAA design standards. Transitioning from the airfield to the terminal, the existing terminal has 3 concourses with a total of 27 gates. Based on the forecast for PAL 1, there will be a need for 32 gates, growing to 35 gates by PAL 2, 41 by PAL 3, and 45 gates by PAL 4. As presented in the second round presentation, in order to accommodate the growth in demand for gates, a 14-gate Concourse E will be constructed and ready for use in 2027, which meets the needs through PAL 3. It is estimated that an additional 4 to 5 gates will be required before the end of the planning period, and a second gate expansion project will be required around 2037 to meet the projected demand. This graphic shows the 2027 development of Concourse E currently in design. Because the new facility is being designed with expansion potential in mind, the 5-gate Concourse E head house is currently anticipated as the most desirable long-term strategy to meet demand in the latter part of the planning period. However, there are a number of other ultimate gate expansion opportunities, including partial or full development of Concourse A or expansion of one of the 3 head houses on Concourses B through D. The balance of the facilities that I will review have not been discussed in previous presentations. As tourism and leisure traffic continue to increase at RSW, increased demand for rental cars will require the improvement of certain facilities. These include quick turnaround spaces, allowing for the light maintenance of vehicles such as car washing, oil changes, and tire rotation. Ready return spaces where clients pick up and return their vehicles. Wash bays used for cleaning returned vehicles. maintenance bays used for maintaining vehicles and heavier maintenance than can be done at the quick turnaround facilities. Fueling positions, which are used for fueling vehicles. By PAL 1, there will be projected shortfalls in every component of rental car facilities with the exception of wash bays. While the project was put on hold early in COVID, planning is currently underway for the expansion of rental car facilities in 2028. That expansion will meet facility needs through PAL 2. By PAL 3, ready return, maintenance bays, and fueling positions will begin to fall short of demand. Second expansion in the 2037 timeframe would meet rental car demand through the end of the planning period. One thing to note is that the current plans meet future projected demand for vehicle fueling using existing fueling criteria. With a changing automotive market that will most likely see transition of rental car vehicles to electric power by the end of the planning horizon, these requirements may evolve over time. This aerial image shows early preferred concepts for the areas that would be improved in order to accommodate the additional facilities needed to meet rental car activity. Rental cars are currently long-term stored and serviced north of the former terminal location. These facilities would be relocated in 2028 to be closer to the terminal area to improve rental car operations. An expanded customer service building will also be open in 2028 to meet the arriving passengers with rental car check-in desks and offices. At the same time, the expansion of the existing rental car facilities and the parking structure into the south and west will allow for additional QTA, ready return parking, and additional fuel pumps. A further expansion in 2037 to the garage and QTA will allow for PAL 4 requirements to be met. Because RSW has stronger peaking characteristics than most airports, accommodating peak period and holiday demand is particularly challenging. Short-term demand is expected to exceed capacity by PAL 1, and a Level 4 garage expansion and new long-term lot are planned for 2028. A new long-term lot is planned in 2035, which will offset 400 spots lost as a result of the expansion of the rental car QTA in 2037, and it's anticipated that a fifth-level expansion of the parking garage would be required by 2040. This aerial image shows early preferred concepts to increase parking availability at RSW. New short-term covered spaces would be added to the existing parking structure and will be available around 2028. A new long-term parking lot will open to the west of the terminal in 2028 and will accommodate 3,000 additional spaces available to the public. A further 3,000 long-term spaces will be added in 2035 near the airport entrance. The short-term parking structure will be expanded in 2040 to add another 1,300 short-term spaces close to the terminal. The cell phone lot allows meeters and greeters to temporarily park near the airport entrance and wait for their party to land before making their way to the curb front to pick them up. Based on studies, without sufficient cell phone lot parking, meters and greeters usually would drive the terminal roadways until their party arrives, thereby increasing curb congestion at the terminal. In 2030, a new 300-space lot would be needed to meet the demand through the planning period. A new lot located closer to the entrance to the airport will be built to accommodate existing and forecast future demand. The existing cell phone overflow lot will remain operational during peak season. Growing passenger activity at RSW translates into increased personnel at RSW to serve the flying public. As the number of airline, ground handling, concession, and airport employees increases, so does the need for parking of their vehicles. By PAL 1, employee parking demand will approach capacity of the current lot. A 420-space expansion of the existing lot is planned in 2030 to meet the demand through the planning period. This aerial image shows the early preferred concept for the 420-space southward expansion of the existing employee parking lot. The roadways leading into RSW were analyzed to identify any potential deficiencies in meeting growing traffic. It was determined that the existing roadway capacity is sufficient to meet traffic demands throughout the planning periods. For master planning purposes, we recommend continuing to perform safety improvements and to reserve space for widening where feasible. More detailed analysis will be performed to maintain level of service standards at intersections and identify the need for longer turn lanes, adjusted signal timing, additional turning movements, etc. at intersections as development occurs. This image shows an overall view of the early preferred concepts for airport support facilities anticipated to be needed during the planning period. A consolidated maintenance facility to the northwest of the terminal will provide space needed to meet the increasing requirements. A terminal support building will allow terminal-related maintenance activity to remain close to the terminal once the consolidated maintenance facility is operational. A public safety building will house the Port Police Department, which is currently located within the terminal building. By relocating the police department and other critical emergency functions in a dedicated building, the police will benefit from improved facilities and allow the police department to grow and meet increased requirements for law enforcement activity. A fire station will support aviation and non-aviation business development in the North and Skyplex areas. While not an aircraft rescue and firefighting facility, it will support these activities with potential direct access to the airfield. A future fuel farm expansion is planned that will meet the increased aviation fuel demand as a result of the increased air traffic at RSW. This expansion will be paid for by the airlines. As we move forward into the end of 2022 and into 2023, we'll be further refining these concepts and preparing the draft capital improvement program, the environmental overview, an update to the airport layout plan, as well as prepare the draft master plan document. There will be an additional opportunity for stakeholder and public comment at that time. Thank you for viewing this presentation and your interest in the South Florida International Airport Master Plan. We encourage you to provide input and feedback on the information included in this presentation and anything else that you would like to be considered during the master plan process. The project website, materials, and link for submitting comments can be found at www.flylcpa.com/masterplan. The comment period for the facility requirements and early preferred concepts will begin on August 17th and end on September 2nd. All comments will be summarized and presented to the Lee County Board of Port Commissioners and the FAA and FDOT for consideration. Thank you for joining us.